Hi everyone and welcome to my first ever vlog. I've been having a bit of think about some autumn decorating around the house at the moment, and inspired by some beautiful autumn leaves that we picked up on one of our walks recently, I thought I'd have a go at making some leaves out of FIMO. So here's how to make leaves out of FIMO. We started with essential autumn colour, orange, and also added to the mix, this is just called green. It's a very tealy sort of green of FIMO, but it's just called actually pure green, and glitter pink. You just can't beat a bit of glitter. So the other things you'll need to make them are, this is the FIMO tool. It comes in lots of kits of FIMO. I don't know if you can buy them separately. We've got through our fair share of kits, so we have one of these. Very useful for cutting out, and not forgetting tin foil. Always very useful when you're making things out of FIMO. So to start off with, we're going to make an autumny leaf kind of colour, because pretty though these are, they're not exactly the same colours as the leaves. So, in true Blue Peter style, here's one I made earlier. If we get some orange, just give it a bit of a mould to get it going. And then I'm going to try and make a colour, it's not going to be exactly the same as those red, but kind of that really rich autumny orange that you see in the trees at the moment. And to do that, I need to add a little bit of glitter pink. Not too much. FIMO comes beautifully cut into all these little lines at the moment, and I just still grab blobs of it. But there we are. What's that, roughly 2 to 1? Something like that. So if you give it a good old squish. The aim of this isn't to get it to blend completely. If you get it to blend completely, then you end up with a kind of mushy colour. And it's not, if you look at all these leaves, you know, they're not one colour. They've all got lots of different shades within them. I was doing this with the kids, and they really went to town on mushing it all up, and we got rather an interesting brown that was rather reminiscent of things and did not make it into the leaves. So as you can see, if you have a look at this, I'll see if I can hold it up close up to the camera, see if it focuses on that. Hopefully it will. And you can see we've got glitter, and we've got little bits of pink, bits of the yellow or orange, and we're getting, it's not that colour red, but it's a much nearer to an autumn red. So the next thing to do is to roll it out. We've got lots of rolling pins in our house, but we use them for baking, and I don't really want to use them for FIMO, so I'm using my glue bottle as an essential rolling pin. You could roll it however thick you wanted to with this, but I think the trick would be to get it fairly thin, because otherwise it's just going to be really heavy. The thinner you go, the more fragile it's going to be. That's the payoff. So there we are. That is a couple of millimetres thin. And the next top tip, obviously before you go on to the next stage, is to check that your leaf will fit. And that one, with a bit of squishing, should fit perfectly. What I've discovered through trial and error and sticking lots of leaves to the tablecloth is that if you put it on the tin foil before you start the next stage, that really helps. So push your leaf down onto your FIMO, really squish it in. This is why you want it on the baking tin foil. When it's baked, it'll just peel off at the end. No problems at all. So you're really pushing it down. And then if you take a finger and just push down on all the lines, it doesn't really matter if you break your leaf, but just a good bit of pressure, and that means those nice vein lines will come through like that. Then this is where this comes in handy, because you want to use it to trace round the outside of each of the leaves. Sorry if you can hear the banging in the background. We are finally getting around to finishing off our playhouse for the kids, and I think that's the roof felt going on. So we go around, cutting it all out. Oh, that one started to do it by itself. There we go. The last little bit. Here we go. It doesn't have to be exactly to the leaf, as long as it's a leafy sort of shape. Do this last little bit here. There we go. Right. Let's clear away all of those bits. neaten up any bits that just look a little bit untidy. So that one, we'll just take that down a little bit like that. And just use the tool to sort of round the edge. And then, the moment of truth. You need to be quite gentle with this. And depending on how old the leaf is will depend on whether it'll come up nicely. I've had a couple come up and we used them again. But quite a few have torn as they came up. But that's okay. And you can see as you tear it up, we have a beautiful autumn leaf in FIMO. And we can see all those beautiful veins have imprinted from the other side. Let's set that bit up. I'm just going to use the tool to help me get this one up. Come on, last little bit. There we go. And one bit up here. There we are. As you can see, taking that last bit off has rather taken off some of the point as well, but that's not the end of the world. Just tidy it up a bit there. Now there is one more thing we need to do before this can go in the oven, and for that I shall use this is actually a cable needle. Pencils work quite well on this as well. This just happens to be what's sat on my desk at the moment, and you want to put 2 nice round holes in, and then you can string it up. Depending on what you actually want to do with it in the end, depends on whether you need to put 1 hole or 2 holes. I've been making these leaves to make some autumn bunting to go up in our lounge. If you have a look over at Space for the Butterflies, then there's a whole thing about how that looks. It's got conkers and lots of these autumn leaves. So for that I put 2 holes. If you just wanted to have it as an ornament hanging in a window or something like that, you could just put 1 hole in it. But you want to make them big enough that you can definitely thread your needle through them, because if you can't, you're not going to get the opportunity to make it bigger later. So that's all ready. Hopefully you can see it well enough, and it's all ready to go off to the oven. 110 in a fan assisted oven for about 30 minutes. Yeah, that's what it says on the packet, always good to check. And then we will be back later to see what it looks like. Obviously that's the orange, we haven't used any green yet, so just to show you what colour you make, you only need a really tiny amount of green. Now if you think we did, what was it, 2 to 1 orange and pink, much smaller amount of green, just like a tiny little blob, about the size of a large pea for this match. And you'll see as we sort of start to merge this through, this is the colour that if you go too far you get poop brown. So you can see I've rolled that out, and you've got these nice green veins coming through here. You've still got a bit of orange, and you've got a bit of a sort of, yeah, it's quite a nice leafy green going on there. I don't have quite the right leaf to use this bit, but you can see how if you then cut round and use that, in fact if I just press this one down for a minute. Not obviously doing, yeah, it's a quickie job on this one. And you can see you start to get the veins through and all these beautiful colours. So that's why you would use the green. And to make our leaf bunting, as I said, it's over on the blog, we've used a mixture of green, orange, some of the pink, basically in whatever proportions the kids felt like that didn't turn into horrible brown. I claim this was here's one I made earlier, Blue Peter style, but this is in fact the one we made earlier that has been in the oven, and now I'm back the next day to show you how it got on. It peels really easily off the backing foil, you don't get any problems with it sticking, and you get a really flat sort of shiny side on the back. But on the front, all those leaf markings are still showing up nice and prominently, and we still have 2 holes to thread a needle through. So there we have it, a finished autumn leaf. Fairly robust, but don't try and throw it at anything or it might just break.